here on Nantucket Community Television, Channel 18. I'm speaking today with Daniel Silva, the #1 New York Times bestselling novelist whose 25th book, Portrait of an Unknown Woman, came out on July 19, 2022. The famed journalist Bob Woodward has said that, quote, reading the latest Gabriel Allon is like visiting an old friend, unquote. Daniel Silva will also be on Nantucket in conversation with CNN journalist Jamie Gangel at the Dreamland Theater on Friday, July 29 at 6 p.m. Their appearance was made possible by the Nantucket Book Foundation and the Dreamland. At the time of this taping, tickets were still available, but I advise you not to delay purchasing yours. Daniel, please tell us what Portrait of an Unknown Woman is about.
It is the 22nd novel in my #1 New York Times bestselling series featuring art restorer and legendary spy Gabriel Allon. In this installment, Gabriel joins forces with the French and Italian police to track down the greatest art forger who ever lived. And the twist of the novel is that in order to find the greatest art forger who ever lived, Gabriel must become the greatest art forger who ever lived. It is a fast-paced, entertaining, at times hilarious journey through the dirty side of the art world, sort of a cross between the Thomas Crown Affair and the television show Billions. And it deals with a subject that a lot of art dealers and museum curators don't like to talk about, and that is exactly how many of those beautiful paintings that we see hanging on the walls of art galleries and museums, how many of them are actually forgeries and fakes or misattributed paintings? And the number is more than you might imagine.
What little you just told us about Gabriel Allon is fascinating. Tell us more about his character over the 22 books.
Well, he it appeared for the first time in a book called The Kill Artist. It's never a title that I cared for, interestingly enough. It was a title that was forced on me. But Gabriel, his backstory was that he was sort of the lead gunman, lead assassin for Operation Wrath of God, which the Israelis undertook after the 1972 Munich Olympics massacre. Gabriel was chosen for this operation because he was raised in a German-speaking home in Israel. He speaks fluent German with a very pronounced Berlin accent. And he's also an incredibly gifted painter, like his mother and his grandfather. And so he was chosen for this operation, and we have gone along on a journey with him that is now spanned, as I said, 22 books, and so Gabriel's stories span both the art world and the world of intelligence, geopolitics, international intrigue. But this new novel is really set for the first time. It's a little bit of a departure for me. It's set exclusively within the art world.
Now, how did the idea for this character come to you?
He was partly just the process of constructing a character, and partly he was a bolt from the blue. I just happened to have dinner with a friend of mine who truly is one of the world's finest art restorers, and I had dinner with him while I was working on a rough outline and the notes for the first Gabriel Allon novel, and I pulled him aside at this dinner and I said, "Listen, I have this crazy idea. I'd like to turn an Israeli assassin into an Italian art restorer. Can you help me?" And he said, sure. And I started studying the craft of art restoration. The more that I learned about art restoration, it seemed to me that it had a lot of things in common with the craft of assassination. And thus a character was born out of this nutty idea that I had.
Or not so nutty, I would say.
Not so nutty. Magical character.
You've obviously had great success writing thrillers. Readers like them and have liked them for decades, but I'm wondering, from your point of view as a thriller writer, why do we like thrillers?
Well, I write a different kind of thriller. I write a sort of a literate thriller. I've sort of, with Gabriel, invented my own sub-genre. But I think why we like thrillers is we'd like to be pulled through a story. We like to be surprised. Yes, there is the requisite amount of violence in my books. I kind of abhor violence and try to keep it as use as little of it as possible. And when I do use violence in the novels, I try to make it as artistic as possible. My series has the requisite elements of a thriller, but at the same time, they tend toward a little bit toward the literate side. And I've always said that I'm a literary novelist masquerading as a thriller writer. Those that yin and the yang pull at me, and the result is the sort of the special mixture that I have with the Gabriel Allon series.
Now, before you started the Allon series, you had written, I believe, 3 other books.
I had, yeah. I had written a World War II standalone thriller. It was my debut novel. And then I wrote 2 books that featured a CIA character named Michael Osborne. And I really had intended, to try to write a second series and bring him back, but Gabriel became so successful that I thought about maybe pairing them together in a book, but poor Michael Osborne fell by the wayside, and I feel a little badly about that because I really liked the character and I liked his wife. I've actually thought about going back in time and writing and picking up that series, but once I started writing Gabriel, I didn't look back. But the interesting thing that I should point out is that he was never supposed to be a series. I had intended to write 1 Gabriel Allon book and 1 book only, and my editor and publisher advised me to write a second. I thought it was a terrible idea. I did not think that an Israeli character could work long term, that it could be a truly mass market, that he could be a truly mass market character. So I wrote a second book, and that sold more than the first book. And then the third book in the series is a book called The Confessor, which is sort of one of the high points in this series, and it's been listed on several lists of the greatest thrillers of all time. It's strange to think now, but when I first made the original notes on The Confessor, it was not supposed to be a Gabriel Allon book. My editor said it must be a Gabriel Allon book. When I finished The Confessor, that's when I realized that I had a series on my hand.
Well, I wish you the best of luck with this book and with your
Thank you.
With your media tour. I appreciate your taking the time to sit down with me.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
More than welcome. For Nantucket Community Television, Channel 18, I'm Charley Walters. Thank you for tuning in. Please tune in again.